They teach you mathematics. They teach you history. They teach you literature and science and how to follow instructions and show up on time and be useful to someone else's vision. They spend 12 years of your life filling your head with information, carefully selected information. And there is one subject, the single most important subject for the quality of your actual life, that has never once appeared on any curriculum in any school in any country in the history of modern education. Not by accident, not by oversight, by design. The subject is wealth, not economics, not theoretical market systems. Real practical personal wealth. How it actually works, how it actually moves, why it stays in some families for generations and disappears from others within years. The rules underneath the rules that nobody with a financial interest in your confusion has any motivation to teach you. And the most devastating part of all of it is that these rules are not new. They are not hidden in some vault that requires special access. They were written down 3,000 years ago by the wealthiest human being who ever lived. They have been sitting in plain sight in the most widely read book in human history for 3 millennia. And the reason most people have never applied them is not because they could not find them. It is because nobody ever told them where to look. Until today. Before I go further, I need you to understand something about the man whose wisdom we are going to talk about today. Because this is not theory. This is not one person's opinion about money. Solomon, king of Israel 3,000 years ago, was not just wealthy by ancient standards. By any standard. In today's currency, his annual income is estimated between $50 and $100 billion. Every single year. He had trading routes that span the known world. He had partners in every major civilization of his time. He built structures so magnificent that foreign dignitaries wept when they saw them because nothing in their imagination had prepared them for the reality. He was so wealthy that silver was considered too common to be worth storing in his kingdom. And here is the part that changes everything. He did not chase any of it. He was offered one wish, one single request, and he asked for wisdom. Not money, not power, not the destruction of his enemies. Wisdom, the ability to see clearly, to understand deeply, to know the difference between what looks like a good decision and what actually is one. And then, as a consequence of that wisdom, everything else arrived. All of it, without him specifically asking for a single piece of it. Now I need you to sit with that for a moment. Because that sequence, wisdom first, wealth as a consequence, is the exact opposite of how most people are trying to build their financial lives today. Most people are trying to get the money first. They are working harder, hustling more, chasing opportunities, following advice from people who profit from giving it. And then they are wondering why, after years of effort, the gap between where they are and where they want to be does not seem to be closing. Solomon watched this pattern destroy people around him. People with genuine talent and genuine effort and genuine desire for something better. And he identified the root of it with a clarity that should stop every single person reading this cold. The problem is almost never the income. The problem is almost always the belief sitting underneath the income. The invisible story a person has been telling themselves about money since childhood. About whether they deserve it. About whether people like them ever really build it. About whether wanting it is somehow spiritually dangerous. About whether trying and failing would be worse than never trying at all. These beliefs, absorbed quietly from parents and communities and religious teachings that meant well but got it wrong, are the walls that no amount of income can break through. Solomon called this the condition of the heart, and he was unambiguous about it. Until the condition of the heart toward money changes, everything built on top of it is temporary. The money comes. The money goes. The pattern repeats. Because the root was never addressed. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. Because Solomon did not just identify the internal problem. He identified the external trap that was designed to keep ordinary people financially paralyzed generation after generation. He wrote about debt with the urgency of a man who had watched it function as a weapon against the people it claimed to help. The borrower becomes servant to the lender. That is not a metaphor. That is a description of a mechanism. Every month that a portion of your income is already promised to someone else before it arrives, before you have had a single chance to build with it or invest it or give it or save it. You are operating inside a system that was designed to benefit the lender, not you. And the modern financial world has spent enormous resources making this arrangement feel normal, feel inevitable, feel like just the reality of adult life in the 21st century. Solomon saw this trap 3,000 years before the modern banking system existed. He described it with the precision of someone who understood exactly how power works and exactly who benefits from keeping ordinary people in permanent financial obligation. The question he would ask you today is not how much do you owe. It is how long are you willing to remain in service to the people you owe it to. And then there is the principle that separates the people who build lasting wealth from the people who chase it their entire lives and never quite catch it. Solomon wrote about it more than almost any other financial truth. He called it the multiplication of small things faithfully managed, what we today call compounding. But Solomon did not describe it as a financial strategy. He described it as a spiritual law, a principle woven into the fabric of how the world actually works. Small things faithfully tend to grow beyond what human calculation can predict. A portion set aside consistently, not dramatically, not all at once, but consistently, does something over time that no single large action can replicate. He watched people lose everything chasing dramatic breakthroughs. He watched people gamble and scheme and take desperate risks trying to compress decades of patient growth into one moment of sudden wealth. And he watched them lose, again and again. While the people who understood the quiet miracle of consistent small faithful actions built something so solid that 3,000 years later we are still talking about their wealth as the benchmark by which all other wealth is measured. The game has never been about the dramatic move. It has always been about the faithful one. I want to leave you with the thing that hit me hardest when I first really understood Solomon's story. He was offered everything, anything he wanted, and he chose understanding. He chose the ability to see clearly in a world designed to keep people confused. And the wealth that followed was not a reward for making a good choice. It was a consequence of having the wisdom to know how everything actually works. We live in a world that profits from your financial confusion, that sells you complexity when the answers are simple, that keeps you busy chasing its products and following its advice, and staying just overwhelmed enough to never stop and ask whether the whole system was designed with your interests in mind or someone else's. Solomon's wisdom cuts through all of it, not because it is complicated, because it is true, and truth has a way of surviving everything that tries to bury it. 3,000 years of trying to keep this wisdom away from ordinary people, and here it is. Still standing, still working, still waiting for anyone willing to receive it and actually live by it. The question is whether you are going to be one of them. Drop a comment and tell me what part of this broke something open for you today. And if this is the conversation you have been waiting for, subscribe, because what we are going to cover next goes even deeper. See you there.